Hello, Brad here, just to say we're super proud that the Friday 5pm podcast is sponsored by the Malt Miller, the UK's best home brew store.
We use the Malt Miller for all of our homebrew experiments, as well as tapping them up for advice and binging on their awesome YouTube channel all the time.
That's why whenever we release a homebrew video, we put a recipe kit live on the Malt Miller, so you can brew with the exact same amazing ingredients that we did. The same ingredients used by pro brewers.
So alongside the Malt Miller's nitro-flushed hops, cold-stored yeast and milled-to-order malts, you can pick up recipe kits for our 5 Points Best Bitter, Russian River West Coast IPA, and now the fastest beer in the world, a hazy session IPA that goes from grain to glass in less than 48 hours.
Sign up to their newsletter at tinyurl.com/Malt Miller to get 5% off your first order. With the Malt Miller's amazing customer service and Johnny's 48-hour recipe, you could order the ingredients on a Monday and be drinking the beer by the weekend.
Speaking of which, it's Friday.
It's 5pm.
So enjoy this week's Friday 5pm podcast. It's Friday, it's 5pm, and as of next week, that's the name of the actual podcast.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? We've just been calling it the bubble on everything, but the bubble is kind of more of a long format thing, right? That you were doing as an aside kind of thing. But the Friday 5pm has kind of taken over. Johnny, we're approaching our 200th episode at this point. Pretty mental.
We are, yeah. We'll dig into that at the end of the podcast and what plans, or indeed what complete lack of plans we have for our 200th episode, and we'll be asking you to send us your ideas for it, because it should fall as the last episode of 2024. So it's quite a nice opportunity to do something quite special. But yes, we are renaming the podcast, folks, because we are getting so many people messages saying either A, do you have a podcast? And B, saying, I've heard you have a podcast, but I can't find Friday 5pm. Which is because it's called The Bubble. And yes, like Brad said, The Bubble was an old project that I was doing with my friend Rob. That wound down as Craft Beer Channel got too busy and he moved to somewhere in Scotland, I forget. So the bubble sort of wound down. We have some ideas as to what we might do that's longer form on the podcast next year, but that will be a separate podcast, and this will become the Friday 5pm. And I'm telling you this because that means that you, as loyal listeners, I think we'll have to start searching Friday 5pm instead of the bubble to get the podcast as of next week.
So we're not changing it this week, right? If you're listening right now, is it still called the bubble?
It's still called the bubble now.
We're talking to nobody if we've already changed it.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say I've planned this out carefully. That is fundamentally not the case. I have last minute decided and then realised that there are knock-on effects to that quick decision. So next week, you're going to search for Friday 5pm. This week, you've probably already searched the bubble. Or you've hit, subscribe, notify, as all good, right-thinking people have for this particular 5-star on Apple Podcasts podcast.
It's a weird one, that, because if I listen to a podcast and I enjoy it, I subscribe to it. But I guess there are people out there that are not liking it, or they're not subscribing it. So
I'm not subscribed or liked to a single podcast, Bradley.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. How do you know when they're coming out?
I don't really...
Why not just subscribe to them? And then you get like a nice little playlist sort of thing with all the latest episodes.
I'm not going to lie, most podcasts bore me very quickly.
Oh, right.
So I'm more like dipping my toe in. I take the Untapped approach to podcasts. I'm like, what am I in the mood for today? I'll see what the rest is. Actually, the rest is history is probably the only podcast I'm quite religious with. But everything else I'm sort of dipping in and out.
Fair enough.
But obviously people don't dip in and out of something this culturally significant,
Yeah. I was listening to Louis Theroux podcast the other day. He's got a new series out. And the mad thing is, because it's a Spotify original podcast, when you're listening to it on Spotify, it says, do you want to watch it? And then you can literally watch it as a video within Spotify.
Well, I've suggested multiple times that we do that, and you like the format we have now where we can't see each other, don't you?
I like it because I get shy. I'm a shy person, so I don't
you
want
run
to
a YouTube channel with me.
I know.
And you're shy of video.
Yeah, definitely. And this is my safe space. I feel pretty safe, unlooked at, unedited. I'm sat here in my pants. I could be sat here in my pants, Johnny. You know, that's the thing. That's the
I'm
difference.
almost certain I have a conversation with you every Thursday or Friday with you in your pants. Yeah.
Well, maybe some Thursdays or Fridays. Not every.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay.
But yeah.
I wonder if your
woken up-
voice changes depending on whether you're in your pants or in trousers or skirt, whatever it is you put on when you're not being watched or edited.
I've always got my denim never nudes on, so you know there's always that. But no, yeah, I think it's interesting. Very high definition, the Spotify Louis Theroux thing. You can really, it's good quality. Well, it would be, wouldn't it? They got a lot of money, but I wonder about the bandwidth and stuff of that. But obviously, when you're driving along in your car, and it says, "Do you want to watch it?" I'm like, that probably should be disabled, but it doesn't appear to be.
No, but I mean, there's a definite movement towards enjoying podcasts as video. You know, it's been hugely successful for the man I won't mention because last time I did, we got loads of hate mail. But for everybody, it's how you promote your podcast now. You look at like Off Menu, rest is history. Even you can watch videos, and it's how you get like, because basically the reason I think it's happened is because people realise that promoting your podcast outside of your podcast or somebody else's podcast is very, very difficult, and most social media platforms have gone video now, so you needed video content of that podcast. And of course, we put the podcast on YouTube now. You can listen to it on YouTube, but 95% of YouTube podcasts are now video, and we're this weird one where you have to stare at our faces hugging in the Stag Garden in Hampstead instead of seeing us moving around. Oh, yeah, like over a decade ago. Yeah. It's an old photo that we use in there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I would like to move to video eventually because I think it would bring a whole new audience.
Well, if we can implement Spotify, playing video in Spotify, well, we wouldn't get any kickback, would we? Because Spotify is shit to artists, but are we artists, Johnny? Maybe we're artists.
We could get Spotify video, no problem. We're in the top 1% of podcasts in the world, Bradley.
Nah, come on. Me and you, sat in my pants.
Yeah,
in my never nudes.
Yeah,
no way.
Yeah,
that's bonkers, isn't it?
It is wild. I mean, I don't think it says much about our podcast. I think it says more that actual podcast share of audience is pretty poor. You know, there's lots of great podcasts out there that get a couple of hundred downloads a month. And being where we are puts us right up at the top. I mean, if you break down that 1%, there's a wild differentiation between, say, us and Louis Theroux's podcast, but we are still within the same percentage point of podcasts overall. And that's, I cling to that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Maybe we think about video next year.
Yeah, it needs to be your top half. We don't need to see the never nudes.
Cool. Okay, cool. Sounds good.
Good. Okay, it's done. Next week.
Yeah. What's the name of the podcast again, Johnny, if we're searching?
Which week are we talking about? This week or last week?
Well, at the moment it's The Bubble, right? But next
week is Friday 5 p.m.
From this. Friday 5 p.m, guys.
Which I think is what everybody else, calls it. They don't call it The Bubble anymore, I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a good name, that. They're both good names. Friday 5 p.m, I think it's good. Is a good name too, though. It's good. It's funny.
Well, let's hope so, because that's what it's becoming. I say that I'm probably going to forget this week, but I'm gonna. I mean, we've recorded it now. I'll remember. Shall we?
Yeah.
Well, actually, there's another bit of news I want to get out of the way before we dig into the meat of the podcast, which is that my book comes out almost a month today.
Damn, that's exciting, isn't it?
Very exciting, yeah. So I have physical copies of it. Our series that is promoting it, but also is, I think, going to be a fascinating series in and of itself, is starting next week.
Ooh.
In which we'll be talking about all the beers that changed the world, and along with
good.
I can
confirm.
I mean, sorry, I basically talked at you for 4 hours on Tuesday, didn't I?
Yeah, it's good though. I enjoyed it. It was good. It was good talking to you. It was a beer company talking to you. Don't get much better than that.
Yeah, I mean, I basically became that guy in the pub for a day.
Yeah.
Just holds
You're like
court.
the memes of that guy where he's talking the ear off of that young lady who looks very
Oh
cheesed
yeah,
off.
in the nightclub. Yeah, that was me.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you were her.
Although
I guess
I wasn't cheesed off though. I thought it was very, very enlightening, and had some little bits I could say back about our experiences throughout our travels and all this kind of stuff. So, I was kind of involved, unless you've edited me out brutally. But
no.
hopefully not.
I've edited you in as much as possible. I've cut me back, which actually
Sweet.
means we should ring the klaxon for a video that came in under 20 minutes, which we don't get to ring very often. Do you ring a klaxon? Sound a klaxon?
Don't know, but it's mad, isn't it, to think about? Yeah, video under 20 mins.
Yeah,
it's like we're learning.
What are people going to do with the rest of their week?
Probably
now that they don't spend it all in front of our YouTube video.
Watch another one of our videos, hopefully.
Oh yeah. Great thought. That's how we do it. So that starts next week, and I'm just going to do a little pitch here. It's probably the thing I've done that I'm most proud of. It is an absolutely epic tome, involved travel all over the world, from China to Svalbard to Egypt to St. Louis and Chicago. But also pre-orders are incredibly important. If you've ever seen a book come out in hardback that says #1 bestseller, and you're like, well, how the hell has that happened? It's only just come out. It's because the pre-orders were so good, it was already sat at the top of these charts. And that's what I want. Maybe not the Sunday Times bestseller list, but maybe Amazon. Not the main one. I'm never going to reach Richard Osman heights. But pre-orders are super, super important. And there is, in the link to this podcast, a discount code from Waterstones. So if you're UK-based, go get it there. I also have a publisher in the US. It's HarperCollins. I will put a link to the best place to get hold of that. In fact, I think that's already in the podcast description. But a more fun thing for you to hear around the launch of the book is A, that series is coming out, but B, there is a launch in London that you can come to, grab a book from me, have a beer, have some sausage rolls. Lots of the beers that are on are beers that were in the story. So there's some historic amazing porters. There's Budvar. There's König Ludwig Weissbier, which is from the chapter about the Reinheitsgebot and Hofbräuhaus and how the Nazi party was founded there. So drink drink some beer with some Nazi undertones and also some delicious Budvar, and hang out with me and get a book signed. And that is on the 6th of November, so you can also get the book a day early. And it's at the Sutton Arms. The Sutton Arms in Clerkenwell, not the Fuller's one, the one around the corner that's a free house and is amazing. And it starts at 6 p.m. So if you want to come, email craftbeerboys@gmail.com to secure your ticket, because it is limited.
Brilliant. Good plug. Yeah, I was going to say you're actually in the beer news this week because your beer launch popped up on my extended search for beer news. Yeah,
come
so
on
Beer Guild, which is obviously you are the chair of the Beer Guild. But
was it the Guild newsletter?
Yeah, 3rd of October.
Oh, okay, so I wrote
yesterday.
that. Okay, I thought you meant somebody had written about me.
Yeah. When I was going to ask if you were allowing regular punters to come, because it says you are inviting guild members to the official launch. So
I'm allowing
anyone.
CBC followers, so podcast and
sweet.
YouTube followers, and obviously Patreons are allowed to come.
Yeah.
I'm not sticking it all over social.
Yeah. And
It's
these
just for the venerable few.
The sausage rolls you spoke of, are they free?
I believe there will be limited free sausage rolls until the publisher's budget runs out. Yeah.
And what about König? I've already forgotten the fucking beer's name.
König Ludwig.
König Ludwig, is that free? How have you got hold of that? I know it does come into UK, but what's the deal?
I've done it like that. Comes via James Clay quite regularly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it on a keg?
Yeah.
Is that what's going on? Cool.
Yeah.
You haven't got any of those beautiful little glassware that he hasn't sent you over millions of little glasses.
I mean, it's not very practical in a pub setting to be like, yes,
No.
I'll have a 75 milliliter shot of Weissbier, please.
No, it's definitely not, but it is fun. But I reckon those glasses cost more than our festival glasses that we got made, which are quite expensive. But yeah, I reckon they cost even more. They were cool. I wish I could come, Johnny, but I'm probably going to be in San Francisco on the 7th of November.
You inviting anybody
That's
to
my
that?
plan. To San Francisco, my girlfriend. Yeah, I'm inviting my girlfriend. She's left
fair.
me on unread. So I don't know if she wants to. No, she is coming. She's going to come. We got our Esters approved the other night, which is always a little bit worrying, isn't it? Because
Well, only if
they
you've
don't
been to
tell you.
like China or Iran recently.
China's fine. I don't think China was on there, but it's like Lebanon and Iran, Iraq, Somalia, Somalia, maybe I can't remember. Anyway, lots of places that I haven't been, so that wasn't the problem. It's just when they're asking you about it's got bigger. The form is way bigger, so they always ask you like where you're going to stay and stuff, but they ask you loads more things now, and they really pry into what you do, and they want all your social media. You don't have to give them that, but they're into it. So I didn't give them it, obviously.
No,
but,
I wouldn't.
No. So yeah, it was interesting doing the Esther forms, and they make you wait for a bit. So anyway, I got approved. Sweet. So I'm all good to travel to America next year, Johnny. Hopefully.
Well, I mean, you are a bearded man, so I'm sure they'll try and stop you at some point.
Just a beer nerd, mate.
Yeah,
but
one of us always gets stopped on the way to the US.
That is true. That is true. It's all that sticky, icky hops you've been rubbing, mate. That's what it is.
Well, like when I got flagged by a dog at the festival. We clearly just reek of hops our whole lives, and I certainly did after this week's video, which we'll dig into after some beer news.
Oh, we're going on the beer news tip. Okay, cool.
I think so. So, right. Brad, you seem to have a handle on the beer news better than me this week. You've done some. You've dug deep enough to find my book as news. So you've clearly done your research.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say it's good research, but I've done some research, Johnny. So we've got all sorts of news. Maybe not lots of good news, but we've got 4 Pure that have gone into administration again. So that's not good news.
No,
I don't know why I'm laughing. It's not.
It was a weird purchase. I forget the name of the company. Yeah. It's like In Good Company.
In Good Company, yeah.
Which was actually the name of the blendery that I
Rock.
tried to set up at Beer Merchant's Tap when we opened it, but that seems to have died a death since I left. But yeah, now they've nicked the name, and it's not going very well for the Good Company, is it?
No, it's not. They also own Magic Rock, and they're going to be brewing 4 Pure at Magic Rock's premises from going forward. And I think they have had to make people redundant at 4 Pure. Obviously, they had a taproom in Bermondsey and stuff, which is gone. So I did enjoy going to the launch of that taproom, and I remember they had a mezzanine level, which is pretty swank. They had a nice big sort of U shape, or maybe even like a full circle shaped bar. But it was definitely a U shaped massive bar, and they also had swing seats underneath the mezzanine, which were pretty cool.
So they spent all their money on architecture and forgot to make the beer good.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, how was the beer then? I haven't drunk 4 Pure.
That was years ago. Yeah, that was pre-sale. I think that I went to that launch.
No, it was just after. They wouldn't have had the funds.
I'm sure it was pre-sale. Anyway, I wouldn't be 100% on that. But the beer was all right. I mean, you know, like when you're drinking free beer, Johnny, that tastes pretty good, doesn't it? As we found out at our beer festival.
I like to think I'm not so easily swayed.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, you might be.
A lot of the beer we drink on the channel is free, to be fair, and it does taste delicious. So maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. So that was some news. I'm saddened to hear the kind of slow demise of any beer brand. I didn't like when they changed their brand up. I thought that was a bad move. I can't even remember what their original brand looked like, but I remember being like, why didn't they just leave it? It was fine.
It was pretty dry, the original brand. It was very... Well, so they did the brand that was in bottle, and it was pretty terrible. And then they did the brand in can, where everything was like bold colours with textures of like the locations that inspired it, like whether it was Germany or America. And it was kind of nicely thought through, but a bit corporate. And then they tried to do the whole like it's just a lager, get over yourself kind of thing, and that was a terrible, terrible move given who their audience had been for the entirety of their existence.
Indeedy. Another bit of beer news from around the world, Johnny, because we're now in the top 1% apparently of podcasts. I'm not sure I believe that, but there you go. Tens of thousands of dock workers entered day 3 on the picket lines in a historic US port strike. Analysts warn that a lengthy shutdown could impact consumer prices if it lasts beyond the next week or two. And they're citing things such as bananas and beer, imported beers being really at risk of prices going up. So 75% of the nation's bananas, the American nation's bananas, come in through these ports that are on strike, and also most of the imported beer is coming, from Mexico and whatever.
What about export beer? Are we going to see the effects of that?
They don't mention that. I think because it's an American news site, they seem to be worried about people going to Costco and bulk buying toilet roll.
Right, okay.
Like with every sort of apocalypse where everyone just goes mental and buys all the toilet roll. They're genuinely worried about that happening, but they're also worried about imported beer prices. So what I say to that is drink local beer, because your local beer is probably a lot better than the imported beers you're getting. I'm pretty sure it would be. So
unless it's come from Belgium or Germany or Czech, probably.
Well, yes, sorry. Okay, yes, fair point. Drink your local beers anyway, because it's better for the planet, Johnny. It's not travelling around the world on a frigging giant boat. Another interesting thing was from that, Novo Nordisk, the Danish manufacturer of popular weight loss drugs Ozempic, said they've started to move products using air freight. And I just assumed that, that's in there along with everything else. So that is, imagine how many people must be concerned about their Ozempic supplies. So that probably says a lot about how many people are using that. And also, I was surprised that wasn't already coming via air freight, because presumably they're tiny little pills that don't weigh very much. So I would have thought, zip them round.
Yeah, but air freight is like think how expensive you think it is, then quadruple. Yeah. True.
But also, people like, I don't know, celebs that are using it, they got loads of wonga, aren't they? They'll probably just fly their private jets over to Norway, Denmark. Sorry,
I'd see it as a price gouge. They're well, we send it by planes for a bit, put the price up, and then we don't have to put it back down again.
That's a good one. Yeah, I reckon you're right. Yeah. Like, yes, that's probably it. That's why Ozempic lads are getting in there in the news going, oh, we're having to send it via air freight. Sorry, the price is going up. Probably onto it there, Johnny. So that's some other crappy beer news. I'm going out to America, as I said, hopefully. So it won't affect me, because I'll be drinking all American all day, baby. There's another news story, Johnny.
You could say you're coming via air freight. You were going to go by boat, but now...
Yeah. I was going to go by boat. I might go by train. I found out that...
Wait, you can't go to America by train,
No. Sorry. When I'm in America, I might travel by train. So I'm planning on booking about the cheapest hotel room I can find in San Francisco. We might stay in a historic hotel that's over 100 years old, and it was built by the founder of the Bank of America, who was an Italian man, very wealthy. He built this hotel turn of last century, 1905 or something it was built. So anyway, it's the rooms look a bit like a fancy Orient Express sort of like train room or whatever, quite small, and they have some internal windows facing into the hallway, which is also pretty odd. And it's this style of... I know, I'm not sure about that. That's why I'm thinking I won't stay there. But they've also got the toilets down the hallway, which I'm not sure about either, which is apparently something they used to do 100 years ago, Johnny. And we've all become
Well, they still
so...
do it in some hotels.
They
Just
do.
really
They
cheap
do.
ones, yeah.
But this one is a historic cheap hotel, Johnny, that I might stay
Okay.
in. So you can... I found ticket, mate. Unbelievable. 12 nights. Virgin... I think it was Virgin Atlantic flights. 12 nights staying in this hotel for like 700 and something quid. How is that even possible? Mental. Including flights. Mental.
Yeah, it's wild.
But what was even my point? Oh yeah, sorry. Then I might get a California rail pass on Amtrak. Shout out Amtrak. $159. You can go anywhere you want in California on the Amtrak train network for 7 days. $159. So I might do that. Go to LA and yeah.
It sounds like you're going to save enough money to bring back a case of hypey IPAs.
I won't because my back is fooked, so I won't be carrying anything heavy.
You just get a wheelie bag.
Well, it's cheap because I don't have hold luggage. When I go on holiday, I just take a rucksack because I'm like Jason Bourne, mate.
You're going to be like 70 miles from Russian River. You're going to be round the corner from Cellarmaker.
Yeah.
And you're telling me you haven't got hold luggage?
No, I haven't. Not unless the company wants to pay for it.
Yeah, I'll pay for it.
Then maybe. Well, I'll have a think about it, Johnny, because my back is genuinely killing me. But I will have a good think about it, and maybe that will happen.
It's all content for the channel. We need more hype trains ready for next year.
True.
Anyway, you do you. It's your holiday. Oh, you got more news.
Well, sort of. If we're still on a news tip, I could get ramble on for a little bit. So I'm going to take us back. I think I might have mentioned this before about French children drinking wine in school until 1956. French children attending school were served wine on their lunch breaks. Each pupil was entitled to 4 glasses, about 125 milliliters a day. Which is 125 ml is the small wine glass in the UK. Yeah. So that's what they used to drink. And up until the 80s, they were still allowed to drink wine in high school up until 1981.
Well, did you know that in public schools in the UK, private schools, I should say, in the UK, posh schools, I think Eton had a beer butler until into the 20th century. So it's not just France that was serving its pupils alcohol.
Well, there were lobbies and stuff that basically were advocating for wine to be consumed basically in schools and stuff. So there was a national propaganda committee in favor of wine that was created in the 1930s. Their first demand was to encourage the practice of serving alcohol as a way of customizing children to the taste of wine. So I thought that was quite interesting.
How's it used? Sorry, are they bringing it back?
No, the news is I want to bring it back, right? But I want to bring it back to save.
That's not how news works.
Yeah. I'm making my own news now, Johnny. You're in the news. I want to be in the news. So I want to bring it back, right? Because I want to save the beer industry by brewers brewing low and no alcohol beers, which a lot of them are already turning to because of various reasons. But they're gonna market them at children as isotonic drinks because no alcohol beers are usually isotonic. Which can basically, I'm just trying to remember what that means.
I was just doing the same.
It basically, where's it gone?
It solves dehydration, right? It's got like the minerals and all the stuff that you lose when you get dehydrated, like vitamins, minerals, salts, and obviously liquid, right? Is it replacing that? Is that what isotonic means?
Yeah. So it basically has a similar sort of mineral. Oh God, isotonic drinks have a similar amount of salt and sugar as human body fluids, making them ideal for rehydrating after exercise.
Right. Okay.
So my plan is we go and we mark it. Maybe we do the Friday 5 p.m. no alcohol beer, but we market our children in schools, and it's for their Friday commute. No, it's not for their Friday commute home. That's this podcast. But it's for after they've done exercise at school, or just when they want to get a little bit of a buzz on in their lunch break. And it's isotonic, Johnny. So it's better than drinking like a Lucozade full of sugar. It's good for you, and it will save the beer industry. We've just got to get around the idea of feeding children beer. So you as an adult, adult and as a parent, what do you think about my idea? Like, would you be happy if we instigated this into primary schools?
I don't know whether primary school kids need isotonics.
Okay, but if they do run around a lot, I pick up my nephews from school. They're full of beans, those little kids. I suppose you want them tired. Maybe, yeah, probably not. You probably also want them a bit tired when you get them home, so they go to sleep, so you can get a bit of a rest, right? So you probably don't want them all being all isotonicked up and ready to go, and cause chaos at home as well. So, yeah, I'm not a parent, so I'm interested in your take on it, Johnny. But it would be non-alcoholic beer. So there's a problem with it being called beer, presumably? Like morally, what do you think about this quandary?
So I think that I'm gonna have to sort of go through my thoughts here and come up with an opinion at the end, because there's a lot to break down. I think that there should be no issue with like 14, 15, 16-year-olds trying beer, alcoholic or not, because I think that it sets them up to respect the drink, to understand the drink, and it
demystifies it as well, right?
Yeah, so that you don't go to university and do a lot of bad things.
Yeah,
I mean, you probably still will, but you'll probably do less of it and understand why you're doing it. Or if I just think that slowly introducing people to things is always better than just pushing them out the door and going, you can drink now. Yeah. I think that low alcohol beer could definitely make some health claims. Not many, but some. There are definitely going to be better isotonics out there than low alcohol beer. I think that people need to remember that while even low alcohol at 0.5% ABV does have alcohol in, so do pretty much all the fruits and fruit juices and smoothies and stuff that you consume just through naturally occurring fermentation of sugar. Yeah. So anybody that's worried about that needs to get over it. So everything I'm saying would imply I'd be pro, but it still doesn't feel right. I think there's still just going to be a better drink to offer them.
So we just need to change the name from beer, like non-alcoholic beer, to
like malt, fermented non-alcoholic malt beverage.
Because if we sold it as fermented isotonic drink, right, health drink or what? No, maybe not health drink, but isotonic drink. Then you sort of you take away the stigma of it being beer.
I mean, you're right. Beer has a stigma for sure, particularly when it comes to underage. So you could remove that. The other thought that's just come to me is if you're like the first time I had beer, I remember it was a bottle of Budweiser. I was maybe 14. I was in my friend Matt's summer house, and we had a case of Budweiser, and I drank it and I hated it.
What, you drank a case of Budweiser? Is that what you just said?
Well, between a couple of friends.
That's still quite a lot. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because socially you're like, this is what I have to do now. I'm 14 years old. And I hated it. And I also, I did have a sip of my dad's Stubbies when I was probably even younger, thinking about it. That was probably my first thing. But so both not beers that I especially enjoy now or especially enjoyed then. And it put me off beer. It put me off lager for a long time.
Yeah.
I think that if kids' introduction to beer was low alcohol beer, they'd be even more like, what the fuck is this now?
Yeah, but we're not giving it to them because we're trying. Well, maybe we are. Maybe we're trying to indoctrinate them
Well, I
into
think
loving
you are.
beer.
I think that was the whole point
with
of
the
this.
branding. With the branding, yeah, for sure. Like, we're going to make it look really cool. But what we're subtly doing is giving them a healthy drink that's fermented and has got maybe we could do it so it's unpasteurized, or would that be too dangerous?
You got to pasteurize low alcohol beer, mate.
Shit, yeah, low alcohol, yeah, because you can get botulism and stuff, can't you, from stuff when it's
You could get all sorts.
Yeah. Okay, so we're definitely pasteurizing. We're pasteurizing. Don't worry. We're pasteurizing it. It's going to be an isotonic pasteurized fermented beverage, malty beverage. We need a catchy name for that. If anyone in the forum can help us, I'm gonna
send your ideas to the Discord.
Yeah. I'm gonna pump all of my resources into this. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, if Mash Gang's listening or anyone like that, and you fancy getting in the newspaper, actually don't do it because it's a terrible idea. But I just think it's an interesting thing, the stigma around beer. When you sort of really think about what it is and what non-alcoholic beer is, which is not really beer in the same way, then why is there a stigma around it? Like, I think you are actually allowed to buy. Did we talk about this before? Aren't you allowed to buy non-alcoholic beers as a child? Or no, maybe not. I can't remember. I've already forgotten.
No, I believe that you are. You are allowed to purchase it, but a lot of shops won't.
Won't serve it. Yeah. So that's interesting. I find all this stuff quite interesting. I don't know why, but because
you're going to make you millions in it, I'd imagine.
Well, potentially, yeah. And I think we could be helping the industry a bit more somehow by doing this, by making the younger generation like beer, because they're not. These new ones coming out, they're not liking beer, are they, as much, Johnny? Which is worrying. The new models off the line, they're not enjoying beer as much.
Yeah, I mean, I still think that giving kids low alcohol beer is only going to encourage that movement rather than reverse it. Should we talk about this week's video?
Go on then. If we have to, let's do it.
So, yeah, this week's video was the second in our series about hops from around the world, what to expect from different varieties, the history of them in each location, and, of course, the flavours and aromas that we get from them. And this was the New World. So the Americas and, of course, the Antipodean varieties of New Zealand, mostly Tasmania and Southeast Australia, which I had a really, 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 really nice time filming. And I had to cut a lot out. And I feel like if I can find a way to do it, I'd like to do more on this series.
I think there's definitely ways. I really liked a comment, which I've probably lost now, but it was basically someone suggesting that could you do a video where you give great examples of a beer that's a hop that's present in a famous beer that we could all get our hands on. So, like, good examples of hop use, basically. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. We'd have to probably make it specific to a country, because Sierra Nevada would be an obvious and an easy one, but outside of that, I'm not really aware of any
that travel
American hopped beers that are available all around the world.
Yeah. That comment was from Ben Riley. So he said, "Love this. I'm familiar with all these hops. It would be cool if you could recommend a list of beers that are great examples of these hops, maybe on the pod." So he's actually just saying a list of beers, which could do. But I like the idea of drinking great examples.
You could, like, UK based. Sierra Nevada is 100% Cascade. Oakham Citra is 100% the best representation of Citra out there in the UK. Nelson Sauvin, really, really hard to find find one, but I would say that maybe look at the Kernel's web shop, because they do quite a few single hop beers and often use Antipodean hops. You might be able to find one there, and they're very good at getting sort of specific character out of their beers, and they're quite brave in going for a lot of single hop beers. Though I've noticed a bit less of that recently. They used to be very into it, and now maybe a little bit less. Actually, I went to Kernel's new taproom on Tuesday. I went to the launch of Ned Palmer's next book, which I have next to me here, called A Cheesemonger's Tour de France.
Yeah, it looked great.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful book. I've read the first chapter no further, but as always, it is well, actually, it's on the front exactly what I'd say about it. Encyclopedic, forensic, and geeky about cheese. But the new Kernel taproom is amazing.
Oh, wow, cool.
I mean, I love the old one. It was sort of pretty understated in classic Kernel way. This time, they've gone all out. It's stunningly put together, absolutely beautiful, incredible beer list, amazing Japanese food, and like a big place. So, I mean, you could see probably, I don't know, like 150-ish, big old place. So, yeah, if you're looking for somewhere to go for some beers this weekend in London, the Kernel taproom is probably now my favourite place to drink alongside the Beer Merchant's Tap, and obviously all the casky places. And they had cask on.
Brill.
They had some Kernel cask. So, yeah, pretty special. Very excited to go back on a day where it's not full of cheese nerds. Nothing against cheese nerds. It was just very full.
And cheesy, I imagine, as well.
Yes, a lot of cheese. I arrived a little bit late because I'd also been at Brendan Kearney's book launch just before that. He's launching The Hidden Beers of Belgium, an incredibly beautiful book. I got to chat to lots of lovely Belgian brewers that feature in it, including, so we're hopefully going to Belgium at some point this year or very early next for Keep Cask Alive. And I met some guys from a brewery called Jungle. Who are about 10 minutes walk from Cantillon, and they make low ABV, all mixed firm fruited beers. Had some delicious stuff from them.
What were they at Brendan's book launch? Jungle.
Yeah, so that one of their beers is in the book, so they came over and were pouring their beers for the people at the book launch.
Shout out Brendan. Sorry I couldn't make it. I wanted to come and see both of these guys because I like both of them a lot, but my back was killing me. So we were shooting that day, and I bounced to go home when Johnny hung around and went to both of these lovely book launches. So I was a little bit envious, but I needed to go and lie down. But I'm glad to hear you had a good time.
Could have laid down at maybe Brendan's. Wasn't space to lie down at Ned's.
No. Well, that's cool that he had Belgian beer, small Belgian guys coming over and
so Chris from De Dollar was there as well. So I was drinking Arabier, one of my favourite beers on earth. It was very nice, and a brand new lambic brewery blendery that I'd never heard of. Began with a B. I cannot for the life of me remember the full name of it, but had a beautiful, really sherbety gers, like a very soft, sherbety, foamy gers. It was beautiful. So we need to go back to Belgium just because it seems like there's been a real explosion of sort of small brewing since I last sort of explored the suburbs and the surrounds. You know, we've sort of stuck to the cities mostly of late, other than St Bernardus.
Yeah, man. I'm always up for going to Belgium. Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah. So Ben Riley, I think maybe if you're a Patreon, ask that question in the Patreon forum, and everybody can wade in because I think it needs a hive mind rather than just mine. But definitely, if you want to get the pure character of Citra and Cascade, those two beers, Sierra Nevada Pale and Oakham Citra, will help you. I got a comment from Father Earth 93, friend of the pod.
Oh yeah. Yeah, friend of the pod.
He says, great videos, important notion that every hop presents differently in different beer styles. Would love to see a similar crash course on malts, but dragging 25 kilogram bags of malt into the brewedio might be less practical. I enjoyed that, but a joke, but a serious point. I think we do need to do that, and I think there could be a really interesting one. You know, this time, if I was doing malts, and I've been thinking about this comment quite a bit, Father Earth, I promise you, I would do an episode on barley varieties, and then I would do an episode on malt varieties, because obviously barley varieties, you know, Maris Otter, Planet, Hannah, all these different varieties of actual barley all have different characters and interesting histories. And then obviously we have the different types of malt, so from, you know, Pilsner and pale all the way up to, you know, chocolate and black, and explaining the differences of that could be quite an interesting, if slightly long-winded video. But if I broke it down into two like that, I think that's an episode I'll do start of next year.
Yeah, nice. That sounds good. We do need to go to Bamberg still, though. I think we need to go to Bamberg before you do that one.
Well, I mean, we just need to go to Bamberg, really, because it's that and also Cologne are two beer meccas that we have never even come close to visiting.
Yeah.
And
I was trying to
a real shame.
we were trying to work with a giant Chinese travel company who I was reaching out to, and they were talking. We were in talks with them, and then we came up with a massive pitch about a travel thing, and they just didn't even say thanks or like reply, which was incredibly rude. We spent a lot of time this year pitching, didn't we, Johnny? Trying to cave things out, trying to make stuff happen, and that one wound me up a little bit. Giant Chinese travel company, if you're listening.
If I had £50 for every pitch I do that fails, I wouldn't need to pitch anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's okay.
That was weird,
I understand.
Though. That was
people,
weird. Anyway.
People only take the stuff that really interests them or that they think will make a huge success, and clearly they didn't think we would. But we're going to go to Bamberg anyway.
Yeah, it's fine. I love a bargain so much, Johnny, that I've still got the concepts, and I think we can still do it on our own with Patreon support, and be able to go to these places. So,
it's turned it into a Patreon pitch. Join our Patreon. Join
our Patreon.
Yeah, so that was my comment, Father Earth. I definitely think that is going to happen start of next year, because this year we're all sewn up with Keep Cask Alive filming and booky stuff. But obviously we will be having a Christmas live show and such, which leads us towards the end of the podcast. So I'll remind you, we're going to be changing the name of the pod. We're changing the name of the pod to
Friday 5 p.m.
Friday 5 p.m. So next week, please do check, maybe search both and see how this works, because I've got no idea how it's going to or if it's going to. The other thing to say is that we've calculated that most likely the last podcast of this year is going to be our 200th episode.
Oof.
Which is insane and wonderful, and we want to mark it in some kind of special way. So we'd love to hear your thoughts, whether it's on social, in our Patreon forum, on YouTube, just because obviously we're on YouTube now with this podcast. You can stick it in the comments. Let us know what you'd like to see on the 200th episode. I'm fairly certain we will get guests on, but I'd love to hear who. And I'm also fairly certain we will do a video version and broadcast it live on YouTube on the Thursday night, and then put it live on the Friday for everybody that didn't watch it. So that's kind of the framework. We want to know what you want to see us do, who you want us to have on the pod, what topics you want us to cover, whether you want any kind of flashbacks. If you want some flashback episodes to hilarious or interesting moments, do let us know what those moments were. I know some of you are going back and listening to the pods from the start. So if you come across anything hilarious or interesting, do let us know. I think Matt Goss in the boot is my favourite episode that we filmed. Recorded, and I still remember that one. But if you've got favourites, let us know, and we'll try and, I don't know, put together some kind of highlight reel.
Wow. That sounds bonkers.
Across 200 episodes. So yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts. So please do, however you want to reach us, put it out there. And if you want to come to my book launch, please do email me, craftbeerboys@gmail.com, as soon as possible, because like I say, spaces are limited. Anything to add, Bradders?
Good luck with the beer launch. I won't be able to come because I'll be on a train. If I can get through the ports in America.
You can probably say that to me later in the day.
Yeah. I will do. Just letting you know, because I know seating's tight, and obviously it's going to be oversubscribed. So there's one less there that you need to accommodate for. But there you go. Cool.
Alrighty, well, we will see you on Wednesday for the first episode of our series all about beers that changed the world. And we're starting with arguably, there's sort of three breweries that could make this claim, but arguably the most important brewery in the world. And I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm going to leave it until Wednesday. We'll see you then. Love and beer. The Bubble and Friday 5pm podcasts are brought to you by the nerds behind YouTube's Craft Beer channel. You can watch over 400 mini documentaries at youtube.com/the Craft Beer channel. And if you love what we do, support us via Patreon and get access to merchandise and our amazing Discord forum, a positive and welcoming space for everyone who loves beer, food and homebrewing. Love and beer.